Invest Saudi webinar. My name is Abdurrahman Al-Ambar from the Investor Solutions Department at the Ministry of Investment, and we are here today to learn more about the stimulus and economic relief package and how we can help and guide investors and the private sector navigate through these unprecedented times. Before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank all our listeners for tuning in, respective government partners for taking part in this lovely webinar. As a breakdown today, we have a lovely lineup for you today. So starting with the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, we have Mr. Mohammed Al-Hamza, the Director of Finance Companies Supervision Department. We have Mr. Khalid Al-Jafari from the Small and Medium Enterprise General Authority, who is the Acting Head Debt Funding General Manager. And from the General Authority of Zakat and Tax, we have Mr. Abdul Aziz Al-Mu'jal. And from KHALALA, last but not least, we have Mr. Hamam Hashim, the Director General. So now I kindly present our esteemed Deputy of Investor Services and Advisory at the Ministry of Investment, Mr. Ibrahim Aswail. Mr. Ibrahim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for our first webinar. The world is faced with a pandemic that is without precedent in the last 100 years. First and foremost, the focus of all governments must be on the preservation of human life, but we also recognize the great toll this situation is taking on investors and businesses. At times like this, it is vital that governments act in order to help support the economy and enable businesses to weather the storm. This has been demonstrated by the actions of our leaders in the recent extraordinary virtual G20 Leaders Summit, chaired by the custodian of the two Holy Mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz. Our leaders' actions, which include injecting $5 trillion into the global economy, are vital steps forward in helping to mitigate the social, economic, and financial impact of this pandemic. As part of this, we in the Kingdom have announced a two-phase stimulus package with more actions to come. The government of Saudi Arabia is committed to supporting you through this difficult period. And that is why we have created this webinar today. We know that at times like this, when the situation is evolving rapidly, it can be hard to establish exactly what help is available and how to get it. We want to make sure that we can connect the schemes that have been developed with the businesses that need them. These programs are rooted in providing resilience to businesses of all sizes across all sectors. However, our partners across the government are united in supporting not only the survival of businesses, but ensuring the continued prosperity of business owners, entrepreneurs, employees, students, and low-income families, whether they are Saudi citizens or residents. The support programs covers a variety of accessible options, including the postponement and restructuring of loan, zakat and tax payments, offering work permit extensions, extending the operating licenses of factories and other manufacturing facilities to the end of 2020, and offering financial incentives for those facilities producing essential supplies for the healthcare sector. Today, we will start this new webinar series by having an introduction to some of the major support schemes offered by many government entities from different sectors, such as food production, human resources, finance, and zakat and tax, among others. And my colleagues across the government will explain how we will connect these businesses in need of the range of support programs that will help them in more detail in the following sessions. They will outline the stimulus packages available, which entitles which entities offer them, how to get them, and what business continuity support services are being offered by the government. You will also hear about COVID-19 Response Center we have set up at the Ministry of Investment. If after today's session you have further questions or need assistance in being connected with the right people in order to access support, they are here to help you. Please don't hesitate to contact them. Thank you once again for joining this webinar. I hope that you find it useful, and please contact my team at the ministry if there is anything that we can do help you continue to do business at this challenging time. I wish you and your families good health and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim Swayil. And now we move on to the stimulus packages of economic relief overview segment, which is going to be presented by yours truly. So before we begin, I'd like to talk about the steps that Saudi Arabia has done. So I'd just like to let all our viewers, our listeners, to know that Saudi Arabia was one of the leading countries to introduce stimulus packages to support the private sector, especially the small and medium-sized enterprises during the shutdown of business activities because of the coronavirus pandemic. However, the health of our citizens comes first and foremost. So the government has taken precautionary and strong measures to protect its citizens and residents in the kingdom and to ensure the availability of immediate financial and health resources, which will guarantee that all direct preventive measures to limit the spread of the virus and address this pandemic crisis consequences, as well as protect the government facilities and agencies and ensure the continuity of the health also of the private sector. So before we begin as well, I would like to make sure that all our listeners know that we as a country, we're not a reactive country when it comes to incentives. We as a country are a very wealthy and very proactive country when it comes to stimulating the economy. So for us, we already have incentives that are put into place for our lovely investors, if you will. So we have a total of 237 incentives from a variety of over almost 68 entities, and that's split into non-financial and financial incentives. And we've made sure that we've covered all the priority sectors from information technology, energy, healthcare, emerging sectors, and so forth. And we've already offered a wide range of those incentives. And what I mean by that is we're talking loan programs, custom duty exemptions, we're talking property solutions, etc. And I will go through these slides really quick. So it's chemical sectors, information technology, when it comes to the energy and water sector, the industrial and manufacturing, healthcare, tourism, culture and entertainment, emerging sectors, and please, ladies and gentlemen, please know that all this information will be available for you once we are done. And also we're going to make sure that you have a contact number, an email, and also a WhatsApp number for us to reach out. And we are always here to serve you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So now let's get into the COVID-19 incentives in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So the ministry just yesterday of finance, His Excellency Mr. Mohammed bin Abdullah Al-Jad'an has addressed the kingdom and announced that 177 billion Saudi riyals have been allocated for the private sector. And for us, this is a very, very important step that we are taking to ensure the continuity of our businesses here in the kingdom, and to make sure that also we as a country we're reaching advanced stages implementing our Vision 2030, and it has continued to control the public finances, control the fiscal deficit, and achieved our goals by the end of 2019. So in a nutshell, as you can see, the 177 billion incentives have been split into two, 130 billion for the private sector support and 47 billion for the health sector. And also, may I add, there's an additional 50 billion Saudi riyals for receivables, which will go to making sure it's completion of payments of all dues that are going on. So when it comes to when Ministry of Finance, so I'm trying to give let's say, a flavor of a quick overview, just out of respect of our lovely speakers. They will go into deep dives and make sure they get the right or specific information out to you. So when it came to submission of payments, we're talking tax exemptions, VAT declaration payments that were owed. We're talking zakat returns, and including as well payments of the following commercial businesses, postponement of loan installments for a number of development funds and banks, including sustainability and initiative programs, and so forth. We also focus on project support funds. So there are funds that are tapping into major projects when it comes to health, tourism and real estate, education, etc. And also the KHALALA program, where the initiative aims also to help the SMEs through obtaining necessary finances for attracting and encouraging the SMEs, and also to generally aim to develop the sectors to achieve their vital role in this lovely economy. When it came to the Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, which our lovely brothers will be speaking about, they've implemented postponement of payment programs worth 30 billion Saudi riyals to help funding and authorities providing capital on micro, small, and medium enterprises. So, as well as the zakat and tax, we're talking postponement of acknowledgement of payments of VATs, selective goods, income taxes, withholding taxes, including exempting businesses from fines resulting from temporary non-payments. When it came to the Ministry of Industry and Mineral, which is Mudun, there is reducing of 25% of the financial compensation. They are also supporting factories that have operating licenses, including extending their licenses for a certain period until the end of this year, 2020. Exemption of financial compensation as well until the end of 2020, and also renewal of the licenses for a period of 60 days that expired during the period of business suspension. When it came to the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development, the ministry has helped in lifting suspension of wage protection, lifting suspension of non-payment of fines, stopping recruitment fines, etc. And also when it came to the small and medium enterprises, when it came to, so Munsha'at made sure they have covered all their bases, to be honest, when it came to consulting, to making sure that they tapped into financial incentives, non-financial incentives, and also exempting governmental fees, and also helping you reach financial companies which can also help you in times of need, which is very, very important. HRDF also has many incentives, providing 80,000 Saudi national employees in the private sector from early July 19 retroactively as follows. So we're talking 30% financial support shall continue to be provided for 2 years, retroactively for both years. Financial support, we have program targeting non-beneficiaries of other employment support programs, and so forth. And last but not least, the General Organization for Social Insurance, GOSI, which in response to the royal order to support the private sector in the current circumstances, GOSI has provided such support to Saudi employees working for the private sector, specifically those who are working in enterprises affected by the corona pandemic. So we're talking compensation of affected employees by paying 60% of the monthly pay registered with GOSI, and these payments will be available for a period of 3 months from early May 2020. So this is my time when it came to just brushing through the incentives, and now I leave the mic to Mr. Ibrahim Aswayel to introduce our lovely other panelists.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. Gentlemen, ladies, without further ado, I'd like actually to start the presentations by our fellow representatives. Mr. Muhammad Al-Hamza, he's the Director of Finance, Company Supervisor Department from Saudi Arabia Monetary Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Abdurrahman. Good evening, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Today I will talk about Saudi Arabia Monetary Authority subsidy program to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia Monetary Authority is the central bank of the country, the kingdom. We have announced a 50 billion package to achieve those three objectives. First one, we want to support and complement the governmental effort in combating the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic from a monetary policy and financial stability perspective. Our second objective, we want to mitigate those potential impacts on the businesses, especially the SMEs. We understand they will face some disruption to their cash flows, some limitation to honor their obligations to the lenders, to their vendors, or even to maintain their current employment levels. We want also to enable those private sector institutions, especially the MSMEs, to ensure stability and overcome the current pandemic, even after or post the COVID-19 pandemic era, I would say. How are we going to achieve these objectives? We have announced three packages. The first one, custom tailored for micro and small and medium enterprises. It has three programs. The first program is the deferred payment program. We have allocated 30 billion for that program. This 30 billion will be allocated for banks and finance companies to postpone all payment dues by MSMEs during the period of March 14 to September 14. So those 6 months dues will not be paid by the impacted MSMEs. However, SAMA will place a deposit on behalf of those merchants to ensure the stability of the lenders as well. Our second program here is the funding for lending. We have allocated 13.2 billion program for the MSMEs to be lended by banks and finance companies through the period from March 29, 2020 to March 2021. For a year time, they will have facility to withdraw from to ensure their business stability and maintain their employment level during or after the pandemic time. Our third program is the loan guarantee program. We have allocated 6 billion. This is to compensate the lenders for all loans guaranteed by KHALALA Program. So by doing this, we will minimize or will cut the cost of borrowing to businesses. SAMA today will compensate the lender and KHALALA Program for that fees. Our second package is tailored for those point of sales and e-commerce merchants operating in the country, whether they are physical stores or even online stores. Their fees to the payment operators will be paid by SAMA. We have allocated 800 million to pay that fees. And those fees will be paid for all the transactions made during the period of March 14 to June 14. Our third program is tailored for two cities that have impacted in the initial time. Our holy cities, Mecca al-Mukarramah and Medina al-Munawwara. We want to ensure the stability of the businesses operating in those cities. So we have worked with banks and finance companies to ensure the proper facility or lending have been secured to ensure the stability of those businesses operating in those cities. By this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you, everybody, again. Looking forward to our Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhammad. And now we move on to the Small and Medium Enterprise General Authority, Mr. Khalid Al-Jafari, the Acting Debt Funding General Manager. The floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I hope everybody is in good health and maintaining social distancing. The Small and Medium General Enterprises Authority is built on 7 main pillars. We were established in 2017, and we look at assisting companies or enterprises in driving demand, assisting in ease of doing business, access to finance across all stages, innovation and tech adoption, business support, education and skills development, as well as a culture and mindset. In excess of 98% of all enterprises incorporated here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are considered small or medium enterprises. In our efforts to combat COVID-19, we have put forth a few initiatives, and we'd like to go through them. The indirect lending initiative is an active initiative that has been in place since late 2018, where we incentivize and catalyze lending to SMEs by extending low-cost funding to non-banking financial institutions. Thus far, we have 19 approved lenders in the initiative, and we have funded up to 1.47 billion riyals since inception. In order to combat the effects of COVID-19, what we did was we relaxed the eligibility criteria for lending to SMEs. We also reduced the subsidized loan rates to ensure that MBFIs are further incentivized to put forth more funding to SMEs that need the facilities. 1-year deferral has been granted for all active SMEs who have benefited from the program thus far, and new SMEs that will receive funding through the indirect lending initiative will receive a 3-month grace period on loan payments. Next, please. Furthermore, in order to abide by social distancing regulations, we have the funding platform. It is very difficult for entities, individuals to actually go and request funding from actual lenders. Munshaat has the funding platform, which has been active since late 2019, with more than 20 commercial lenders from banks and non-banking financial institutions. SMEs can access funding opportunities through the funding platform with the link below at the click of a button while maintaining social distancing. Next, please. Part of the training and building capabilities, which is one of the main pillars that we have, and in line with social distancing, what we've done is we have issued or put forth the Nawafid Munshaat application. Now, many SMEs and entrepreneurs require advisory services, and this used to be extended to them through the SME support centers. Now, through the application on your smartphone, you can download the Nawafid app. You can register and you can get advisory services regarding financial, technical, legal, marketing. Anything that any SME requires in terms of advisory is available at the click of a button from this application right here. Continuation as well, continuing with the training on the next slide. We also have the Munshaat Academy. On the next slide, we also have the Munshaat Academy, through which we provide training courses and provide various other academic services for SMEs through the online platform. We are sure that the government has put forth multiple stimulus packages, and they have been covered by our colleagues here, and I believe our colleagues will cover more of the stimulus packages. We hope that this pandemic will go away very soon. And all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khalid. That was very informative. And now I leave the floor for the General Authority of Zakat and Tax, Mr. Abdulaziz Al-Marjal and Mr. Mu'adh Suwailim. The floor is yours.
Thanks to all. Today, Mr. Maad Al-Suwailem and my colleague, Mr. Abdelaziz Al-Mu'jal, will be representing the General Authority of Zakat and Tax. Actually, we are honored to present a brief overview about all the initiatives announced by the General Authority of Zakat and Tax to reduce the financial impacts and effects to taxpayers. We will start this presentation with an overview of the initiative. Then we will demonstrate the penalties exempted from registered and unregistered taxpayers with the details of those penalties. Then we will go through the installment plan facilitation and finally the frequent asked questions. Now my colleague Mr. Abdelaziz will start.
Thank you, Mr. Maad. Thank you, Mr. Abdurrahman and Ibrahim. General Authority of Zakat and Tax has announced a couple of initiatives that were supporting all taxpayer, for this period of hard time we're facing. First of them is postponing all type of tax returns 3 months from the original date. That will take place from the 18th of March to 30th of June. For all kind of taxes. Let's say, for example, if you have a return for value-added tax that's due on the 30th of April, that will be postponed until the 30th of August. So it's a 3-month postponed from the original date. And the second initiative is the postponing all payment of VAT and excise tax that paid on customs. So whenever you import stuff that's eligible for VAT or excise tax, that will be postponed 3 months, and you will declare this payment on your return, not on the spot. You usually pay the custom on spot whenever you import, but now it's postponed. Also, the General Authority of Zakat and Tax suspended all penalties as following on the presentation. It is the late penalty on installment, also on amendment the declaration, and also non-cooperation for audit. GAZ is supporting businesses also to offer a certificate for the year of 2019, so you can taxpayer can finish his businesses and government services with this certificate. It's already provided to all taxpayer without any obligation. Also, GAZ have stopped all the government suspensions on taxpayer currently. Mr. Maad can tell us more about FSAH program. That's
Yes.
Yes, hello.
Regarding the disclosure procedure for registered taxpayers, now all taxpayers can disclose about their filing returns, and the procedure will be as follows. They can change any old filing returns or previous filing returns without having any penalties, and they can submit all the due dates or the outstanding declarations without also having any penalties. And this will be into those conditions. It should be during the period between the 18th of March until the 30th of June. And they have to submit all their declaration within this period, and finalizing all their pending payments. If they cannot finalize their pending payments, they can go through the installment plan, and all installment plans will be accepted without any limits. Then, regarding the unregistered taxpayers who haven't disclosed yet about their information to the General Authority of Zakat and Tax, now they can register without having any penalties. any taxpayer who have registered for an old period between the 18th of March until the 13th of June will be registered without having any penalties. The declaration and their declaration, they should submit all their due date returns for all kind of taxes, and then paying the amount. Or also they can apply for their installment plan. Regarding the installment plan, the installment plan will be accepted without any limits or restrictions. So now if the taxpayer have applied for an installment plan, they don't have to pay the advance payment, which is 20% of the amount. And also they can apply for an installment plan without any restrictions or limits, and no penalties will be calculated during the period between March and June. Next, we will go through the details of the penalties. Those are some details about the penalties. The most important or the most frequent penalties, the registered VAT penalties, 10,000 Riyal. This will be included in the initiative. Also, the 50% of the difference of any amendment or changes in the old declaration. Also, between 5% to 25% from the amount for late filing, and finally 5% of any unpaid amount during this period. The excise tax, there are two penalties, from 5 to 25% for any tax due, and 5% for unpaid payment. Regarding the income tax and withholding tax late filing penalties, 1% will be calculated from the revenue with a maximum amount of 20%. 5% will be calculated when you exceed, if the delay doesn't exceeding 30 days. If it is between 30 to 90 days for the unpaid amount, it will be 10%, and 20% if it is between 90 days to 1 year. And finally, anything more than 365 days will be 25%. Regarding non-registered penalties, it's between 1,000 to 10,000, depends on the type of the registration, and 1% for every 30 days for unpaid due tax. Regarding the frequently asked questions, here are 4 most important questions. Do you accept any installment plan without any advance payment, 20%? Yes, all installment plan will be accepted without having any advance payment and without limits or restrictions. If the taxpayer has an existing audit case, can he benefit from the initiative? Yes, he can benefit from the initiative when he discloses about all of his information. Then the audit case will be closed without any penalties. If the taxpayer had already a reassessment before, can he benefit from the initiative? If the reassessment has issued before the period of the initiative, then he cannot benefit from the initiative. If the taxpayer has penalties or late payments were issued before the initiative period, is it covered in the initiative? If the taxpayer has disclosed about those amounts during the period between 13th March to 13th of June, then then it will be accepted in the initiative. But if he disclosed about it before this period, then it is not accepted. Thank you for listening, and that's it.
Thank you very much. A big thank you from the General Authority of Zakat and Tax. That was very informative, and thank you for going above and beyond and even including the frequently asked questions as well. Now we move on to, last but not least, to Mr. Humam Hashim, the Director General of Small and Medium Enterprises at the Loan Guarantee Program, KHALALA. I give you the floor, Mr. Humam.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In this and present time of the impacts of the epidemic, we wish everybody safe and stay healthy. In this presentation, we'll go through KHALALA Program, Loan Guarantee Program. KHALALA as Loan Guarantee Program initiated in 2006 as a part of the World Bank initiatives with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia under the umbrella of Ministry of Finance, with a capital bid of 200 million Saudi riyal, 100 million bid by the government, and 100 million as a gift from the local banks to support the SME business growth in Saudi Arabia. And the program founded under Saudi Industrial Fund. In 2015, the program moved and transferred to be independent entities directed by His Excellency the Minister of Commerce. In 2018, the program have been reformatted and become totally independent now, with capital bid above 1.6 billion Saudi riyal, and that's to increase the leveraging and the capacity of providing more guarantees to the SMEs in Saudi Arabia, and that's to match the expected visions and the main pillars of Vision 2030 of supporting SMEs businesses and being independent from the oil. Next, please. KHALALA program, it has three main pillars in order to provide its real values proposition. First of all, focusing on with the government entities on the targeted segment and targeted SMEs. So our program is really targeted and focused on SME that serve the vision of the kingdom and achieve a strategic objective of the kingdom. Secondly, we provide the support to the SMEs in order to obtain financial necessity in order to develop and expand their activities and to facilitate their business growth. In terms of the financial institute, we support them by reducing their lending risk and expand their lending portfolios into the SMEs. And that's really how the businesses grows in a homogeneous way. The main objective of KHALALA is to support the GDP growth from 20% to 35% dependence on the SME sectors. Next, please. Next. Now, KHALALA, in order to grow, it had built up a wide network in Saudi Arabia, and that's by accessing to 13 local and international banks working in Saudi Arabia, in addition to 13 NBFI, non-binding financial organization licensed by Central Bank, SAMA. Simultaneously, we have about 7 now institutes. They are willing to come to KHALALA. They are in the pipeline. So with this widespread of partners, we will be able to serve our customer and provide them a variety of services through these channels. Next. In order to share with you the growth of KHALALA, KHALALA since inception of 14 years, it had provided 18.3 billion Saudi riyal as a guaranteed, which served 33 billion Saudi riyal of loans. Total number of SME have been utilized KHALALA, and that's more than once. It's more than 7,600 SMEs. The growth through the past 2 years since the injection of the new capital, we have witnessed a growth almost 100%, where we used to be at 4.9%. Now we are exceeding 9% of the total contribution of the SME lending by bank and NBFI. Now, in KHALALA, we provide multiple products. We have the standard KHALALA, which is provided to the micro and small and medium enterprises, and that's with vary from 2.5 million Saudi riyal to 15 million Saudi riyal. The maximum coverage for this is going to 80%. and we obtain a fee of 1.5%. Secondly, we have the tourism industry, where all SMEs licensed by the tourism ministries, we provide them a limit or guaranteed up to 15 million Saudi riyal with maximum coverage ratios of 90% and a fee 1%. Early startup for micro and small, we provide a lending guarantee up to 2.5 million Saudi riyal, and it goes by percentage of guarantee ratios from 85% to 90% of amount of loan with a fee of 1%. Working capital for medium enterprises goes to 15% and with the coverage ratios of 80% with also fees goes to 1.5%. Also, we have what we call the bulk portfolio, which is allowed to provide a faster track. It goes to 2.5 million Saudi riyal with 90% coverage ratios and 1% coverage fee. In addition to that, we provide some discount for SME that are practicing in remote areas, and simultaneously for SME which is owned by ladies with a percentage above 50%. We have a special program for supply chain, for franchising, and for e-commerce, where we provide them a special discounted rate of 1%. Now, in addition to that, talking about COVID-19, KHALALA worked with SAMA in order to provide a specific program where it goes to waive the annual fee for the first year totally for SMEs. Simultaneously, it reschedule or it waive the first 6 months installment from the SMEs. Simultaneously, it provide rescheduling ability for the SME. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hammam. That was very insightful. And right now, we move the mic to Mr. Majid Asadi, the Ministry of Investment Executive Director of the Investor Business Solution, who's going to be talking about the COVID-19 Response Center, the MCRC. Mr. Majid, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Abdurrahman, and everyone who's attended in this webinar. Basically, we are going to touch bases on what is the Corona Response Center and why this center has been launched and what does we do, plus what is the outcome that we have achieved until now. Next, please. So as you can see, the Ministry of Investment Response Center is being initiative that the Ministry of Investment provided to overcome the challenges that the investor might face due to the current situation, as well as facilitating their businesses. Next, what we do basically is what we are doing on daily basis. We are daily meeting with the outline on the challenges. We're meeting with the customers through WhatsApp, solving the critical issues to the investor, escalate issues if it's needed, if it doesn't resolve, developing a daily report to provide it to the entities, suggest required support from the government entities if there is no and a clear answer, communication and awareness through our website and also through the WhatsApp and other platforms. We identify our let's say main streams into three main streams. One, private sector engagement, as we have a team conduct a team fully to communicate with the customer through phones, emails, and to proactively knowing what they are facing or if they have the business moving smoothly as they want and they wish as well. Number two is the core business. What we're doing now is looking into issues, looking into problem, analyze the most frequent questions to make sure that we have ready to provide it through our platform. The third is the escalation team, where we follow up escalation, whether it's from the ministerial office or through the other entities. Next, please. How we are doing our team. The client he can approach us using any communication methods, whether it's a website or through the business center, toll free, emails, and then the issues, when it comes to us, we identify whether it's internal. Internal means Ministry of Investment issues, or investor business solution when it comes to outside the ministry. It means outside every government entity that outside Ministry of Investment, and the fourth is the escalation, as we mentioned. How we are dealing with issues. Issues, we know that it's just a regulation, or what is the process to adopt or to follow a new procedure because of the corona. Second, what is the incentives and how we can support our investors to apply for that incentives. The third is the issues. Next, please. As a result, during this 2 months, we have achieved almost, we have received 263 going, and hopefully within the coming week or this, I hope that it's going to be completely solved. Next, the outcome. We have a working group being formed from several government entities. It was 30, but as of now, we can confirm that it's 35. And of course, whenever we need any entities, we just call them to, and they definitely provide their support immediately. All incentives have been viewed and coordinated to help and benefit the investors. We have the team that collect all the every incentives program, and we publish it through the website. The activity was shared with the ministry to transfer the knowledge. It resulted to 40 entities and received cases that were unrelated to COVID. So what we have also, we received some cases that it's not related to Corona. However, this is our main job, is to solve the investor issues. These are very two examples out of the 225 cases that how we solved their issues. And if anyone is interested, we can send to him a list of solutions that been applied. Next. So why we are as a center are managing this through our investment business solution, because as investor business solution core business within Ministry of Investment, we are a dedicated office to solve customers' issues that related to outside Ministry of Investment. How we are looking into that, IBS as an investment business solution, we look into the process, and sometimes it just solve it within this stage, or it need a policy change, and then we raise it to the entity to make sure that we are going to modify it based on the current situation. If it's regulation, then we need to reach the highest level for changing regulation as a suggested. Main point, we need to make sure that we have our customer satisfaction. We develop a business environment, and so that will result to attract and sustain business. Next. And through our investment business solution, we are unifying the source of cases. So in Ministry of Investment, when it comes to any case related to outside the government, outside Ministry of Investment, it will come to us, and so we can have streamlined and unified communication. We overcome the challenges when it comes to process, and as I mentioned, even if it's a policy or regulation, we are that channel who interact with the government entity, and we make sure that any solution that we took, we change it to permanent solution, so new businesses will not face these issues, and we're gonna have more smooth investors and happy customers. Next, please. If we defined what is the cases that we're providing services to the investor, including expanded procedure, because we would expect that any new investor or even an existing investor who have any issues, sometimes he need to know how is the process to do that, and we can we can help on that. Communication with the other government sectors, and we have more than 100 liaison officers across all the most of the, let's say, government sectors to have an easy of communication. Dedicated team to receive and follow up on cases. So our job is only to solve issues and problem solve. As we said, that we document all the solution to make sure that we do it from and instantly as a solving problem to permanently. So we ease of doing business, and we make sure customers have a happy journey with their investments. Next, please. Okay, this is a one slide how we are providing, and we are being a unified center to receive all the documents and receive all the cases. Once we receive, and the moment that we receive all the most of the questions and problem and we solve it, we have a dedicated center. This is مركز التنافسية. It's a national competitive center. These are a specialized center who make sure to find a permanent solution, make sure that ease of doing business. And this center have achieved tremendous results with a lot and a large, let's say, government entities who would their job is to streamline and to ease of doing business. I would end up from here, Abdulrahman, respect of the time, because I think we have many audience would like to have question and answer, and I will leave rest in the presentation so anyone can view it later on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Majid. And yes, we are running behind schedule, so we are going to begin with the Q&A session, and I will be starting our question, and this will be going towards Mr. Humam Al-Hashim, where this question is for asking what are the actions made from Kafala to cover the COVID crisis during this time in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
Thank you, Abdulrahman. Actually, Kafala had done various stages as a precautious stages before even the COVID-19 started. The first stage, that by raising the capital, the government had done it by 8 times, and that had given the efficiency in order to provide an appropriate financing to the SME, simultaneously raising the network by more than double of the efficient banks and NBFI. Thirdly, increasing the efficiency of processing time so that we can serve much faster number of SMEs simultaneously in this crucial time. Now, the government has supported us by waiving the fees for 1 year, and that's by the support of SAMA, simultaneously by waiving the installment amount for 6 months for all beneficiaries of SMEs, and that's also an improvement for our business, providing low-cost funding for lending for NBFI and banks, simultaneously providing rescheduling facilities with also waiving fees for the SMEs. Kafala also working right now with various programs. We hope that it will be launched shortly, that it will increase the efficiency and the covering ratios for Kafala. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very informative. Okay, so my next question is, I believe we also have people from the local content team. So this question is towards you. So what is local content in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and how are you handling all your businesses especially during the Corona time?
Thank you, Abdulrahman, for the question. We're very pleased to be with you tonight. And to answer the question, well, the meaning of local content varies from a country to another, depending on the strategic objective for each country, which leaves us to the unified definition that was done in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to be the total spend in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on labor, goods and services and assets and technology as well.
Very good. Thank you. This is a two-part question. So what are the tools and mechanisms that are regulated by the local content to enhance local content in the kingdom?
Well, back in December 2019, the Council of Ministers had officially announced the effectiveness of the local content regulation document, which simply details the tools and mechanisms which are to be the mandatory list of local or national products, and also the price preference for the national goods as well, which is giving a price premium of 10% to national products, and as well as the local content minimum thresholds, which is implemented on contract that are within value of more than 100 million, as well as the local content weight and commercial evaluation, which is simply setting a weight for the local content within the commercial evaluation.
That is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so our next question is regards to a tax question. So concerning the tax deferral dates, will full payments be due, that is for all past months, in one lump sum at the end of the deferral period?
Tax question. Actually, any filing payments should be submitted between the 18th of March until the 13th of June. All will be included in the deferral, so it will be delayed. So if you have any old filing returns, it should be submitted on their regular time. But no penalties or will be calculated between this period.
Okay, thank you very much. I have another question that is towards the local content. You're very popular today, I see, mashallah. So how does local content regulations help foreign investment in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
If an entrepreneur or a manufacturing company is located in the kingdom, we do not technically look into the ownership of the company, but what we look into is them being in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So throughout our regulations and mechanisms, we would secure businesses for them via government procurement throughout the regulations that I just had talked about over a non-local manufacturing or a non-local company.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. Okay, let's see. So I believe we have run out of time, ladies and gentlemen. However, I first of all would like to thank all our esteemed panelists and our brothers from the governmental entities, including our brothers at the Ministry of Investment. I am having this screen right now to make sure that you connect with us today and whenever you need, whenever you have an obstacle or just any requirement that comes to mind, please, we have a toll-free number, we have a WhatsApp, and also we have our investor care at bisa.gov.sa. It is available, as I said before, 24/7, 7 days a week. And thank you very much. Good evening.